Welcome to the Men of Wonder podcast. My name is Curry, your host. I do apologize for the background noise. I'm actually making my coffee, and I thought this is probably becoming a reoccurring theme. But today I wanted to talk about a conversation I had with a young guy who's recently been in a relationship, and they're actually considering moving in together. And one of the questions that came up was, the reason why they're moving in together is because they want to see if it will work. So that's just the next level to their relationship, and it's a logical step that everybody takes. And really, there's a few things that usually are affected to come into this place. Is the fact that usually people get to a point and they think that this is part of their progression because their family have told them that they have to go to school, get a qualification. Once they get a qualification, they meet somebody, they get married, they have children. So there's this sort of sequence that's coming into play. Yes, you are within a relationship because you love each other and all that other stuff, but there's also the added factor that, for especially on the lady's point of view, she's thinking, I do have a clock that's ticking in terms of having children eventually and stuff like that. So in terms of guys, I didn't consider actually getting married up until I was about 30 years old. Whereas for women, it's a lot quicker because they have to think about that clock. So, yes, so it's something that they've been considering in terms of getting in, moving in together and stuff and see where things go. But at the same time, I started, the question that I ended up posing was, when you move in, what would be the thing that determines that the moving in is successful? So we should continue on and get married, or this isn't worked out, so we're definitely gonna have to leave this out. And it's usually once you're living together, for you to actually come out of that is a lot more difficult than when you are just dating. She lives in her own place, you live in your own place, because you form certain habits and then you also become very accustomed to a certain way of living. So even though you're unhappily in a marriage or a relationship, for you to actually leave, there's a lot of, it's very, very difficult. Now, me saying that actually right now is probably triggering some of you guys because you're already in that situation. You sort of quietly regret being in a situation where you've actually committed yourself into living in with somebody, or, you've gone as far as getting married and children and stuff and realize that, this is not the person for me. And it's something that some of this advice you could have used it way before you got into that situation. And the advice that I ended up giving him was that, yes, you have to determine what is success before you even go in. So if anything that is below that standard that you've agreed to, or at least set to, then if you have to end it, at least you're ending because everybody knows that what was the determining thing for success. So you're probably wondering then, what do I need to use to measure to determine success? So what is it that I'm looking for to say, this thing is actually worked out in terms of, we've lived together and I'm happy to move on to marriage and everything else. And I pointed at this 3 things out. Usually it's about 3 things that you need to look into. The first one is the priority in terms of the relationship. What is the priority? And the women would probably disagree with this, but sex is a huge one. So does your sexual appetite match? And what is your dialogue within the relationship in terms of sex? Do you just sort of serendipitously sort of get horny and then you do it, or do you actually go through a process where you're consistently having dialogue? And when I talk about sex, I don't mean the actual penetration that you have to be having sex every single day, but there has to be some sort of interaction that is different from any other woman that is within your life. So the only difference between your girlfriend or your partner and other women that are around is that you have sex, and she would never appreciate you having sex with another woman or another person, based on the fact that that's how valuable it is within a relationship. So being able to have conversations around it, whether you're having it or not having it, or talking about it or not, that priority has to be number one within your relationship, for the sake of the fact that's where you feel the most intimate. Women have sex when they feel connected, and males have sex to feel connected. It's a term I heard from Dr. Laurie, a friend of mine who is a sex therapist, and when she put that out there, I thought that was pretty profound. That communicate, just the whole sex in itself, we already have a massive disconnect in the way that we look at it. Because if I will have sex in order to feel connected. She has to feel connected to have sex. So again, finding that balance, and this is why that interaction has to happen every single day, and it has to be a priority, because if it's not a priority, then over a period of time, and this is where a lot of these issues happen, where there is a mismatch within the sexual appetite. Because if whenever a guy is consistently trying to push it, it almost becomes a chore, and then that's why it's just a bit of, she puts it at the back seat, because it's a chore. It's not something that is sacred within the relationship. Look for a better term, sacred sounds a bit mystical, but anyways, so sex has to be a massive priority, and the way you talk about it, the way you conversate, in fact, just the flirting has to be a common feature within your relationship. Flirting, being able to joke around it, be able to increase the arousal within that relationship, even though you don't even go as far as doing the thing. But there has to be that sort of almost like waves, just thinking of if you're standing on the beach and you're watching the waves, it has to be that coming in and going out, coming in and going out. Sounds like actually penetration. But what I mean is the emotions of the actual arousal should feel like the ocean, as in, it goes in and then comes out. Like there's that gradual increase, and whether it doesn't amount to anything, even though there's that release, there's always that consistent dialogue. Very important. But nobody wants to do that. Maybe people don't want to cultivate that, and that's one of the issues that people get. And again, in terms of this conversation, because we don't use that as a gauge of success, we end up in a marriage where we are sexless, and it's very for some reason I'm thinking about this experiment that they did on rats, and what they did was the fact that they I don't know if it was rats or a bird, and what they did is that there's one bird, there were two birds, and one of them, they gave the bird regular feeding period. So they would give it a specific time, and then over a long period of time, it became accustomed to the food. So if it missed a meal, it would go, it would be very calm, emotionally be very calm. Then there was one that they gave it, but it was sporadic. It wasn't predictable. It wasn't very good in terms of the way they were doing it. They were just variant, because it didn't know, and it created anxiety within that bird. So whenever they fed it or didn't feed it, it would emotionally get upset, or there was just a negative situation because of the unpredictability. So this is very key, because whenever you're having that consistent dialogue, it creates this ease within the relationship. Whereas if you are, there's that unpredictability, because nobody talks about the sex stuff, or nobody at least cultivates it in a relationship. That unpredictability is what creates those negative emotions within your relationship, and that's absolutely huge. But anyways, we'll move on from that. So one of them is the determining or the measurement of success within that is definitely how the dialogue of sex, how you talk about it, how it's a feature within your relationship. And then the second one is ambition. Now, everybody wants to be a millionaire. Everybody wants to drive a Lamborghini. Everybody wants to have a nice big house and have people acknowledge them as this very successful human being. And we all desire that, and we all want to explore that. And one of the things is definitely that the person that you're with has to be consistently looking to improve themselves. If they're not looking to improve themselves, whether they've made $1 million or not, but they should be working towards that. Now, that when you do that, what it does is that it creates something within them that it actually shows that inside them they've cultivated a system or a method to create self-confidence in themselves, that whenever their dream is shattered, they have a way or resiliency to actually build themselves back up and then go for it again. And that is huge when it comes to a relationship, because there are going to be times when you let each other down. There's going to be times when things don't go well as a couple, not as in your relationship, but just your outside circumstances. So it could be anything. It could be the loss of a loved one, or it could be anything that comes into life that's going to affect both of you. That resiliency to actually build yourself back up and then go for it is huge. If you don't have that, then it means that you can crumble and fail, and then that's it. You're sort of gone. And this is why having somebody who can cultivate that sort of drive to consistently go and be better usually is an indicator of that, okay, this person is somebody I can spend the rest of my life with, because they've know how to build confidence in themselves, which is absolutely huge within the relationship. If they do not know how to build confidence in themselves, then they require you to become the person that provides confidence. And usually that is a big no-no. Because if I'm your provider of confidence, then I am going to let you down. And once I let you down, then it means that I'm just going to become a source of resentment, or a source of resentment, or a source of there's just negatives that come with somebody who does not know how to drive. Now, you probably have listened to this and you're already thinking, oh shit, none of these describe my partner. What should I do? I love her, I don't want to leave her, but what should I do? These are the conversations that you can start talking about and saying, like, further on to our relationship, maybe you should consider, taking up something that can start building you confidence. Now, possibly, I'm not saying go and make them into some sort of entrepreneur, or go and get this job, or go and become a brain surgeon or whatever. But what I'm trying to say is that you can even start smaller than take up poetry class, or take up dance class, or take up salsa, or whatever will start building confidence. Usually something that is out of the comfort zone and something that you normally do but can actually be capable of doing. That again can start building that self-confidence. Because I'm not saying all of this so that you can completely disqualify a relationship and then you can fuck off. What I'm trying to say is that these are the things that you can use to determine whether it's successful. If it's not already, there's things that you can do to work on it. So again, with the first one, which is the sex, is something that you can actually start talking about. That we do not have conversation about sex. Like just where I just said it, we don't. And it's really important, because if you've panics and goes, oh no, you're being just a perv, then you say, well, if it isn't that important to you, why is it important to you if I went to your friend and gave her one? It is important. So it's just, again, it's a joke. So don't ever say that, because she's going to kick your ass. But yeah, so that they are those things that you need to look into. And then the third one is, outside of your relationship and her family, has she got other friends? Has she got people that she can be herself rather than being a daughter or a girlfriend or wife or mother or whatever? Is there something outside of that that is huge? Again, because there has to be a point where she can distress and be able to be herself, or at least be away from those other roles that are existing around her, where she's, work and stuff. She has to have long, good friendships that are, got really big bonds. And this is important because it's not just for women, but also for men. A lot of men do not talk about having a bond with another man in terms of friendship, because they're associated with being gay, which is absolutely stupid. It's good to have close relationships where you have love for somebody in terms of a brother. So not love as in obviously romantic. What I'm talking about is that you appreciate the conversations that you can have with that person. And they can be honest conversations where you can actually say, you know what, going through some shit, can you just have a look at this and give me your honest opinion? And those are quite important, and most male people do not have those, because every time we are around other males, we always put out this tough exterior. And this is one of the reasons why many men suffer from suicide and stuff like that, because they cannot share. They just want to show this tough exterior. And it's not just for men, but for women as well. If she cannot form bonds and friendships and close relationships, you end up becoming that source of that. And that's not a good thing. I cannot be your only source of nourishment as a human being. And again, this is why those things are important. So if you look at all those three things, those become a good indicator of success. So again, back to the question, how do I know whether it's successful if we've moved in together to take it to the next level? So it's these things that you need to be looking into. I think there's a whole lot more that we could dive into, but for me, I think these are three things that will be the main ones I would be looking to. In terms of time frame, I would keep it very, very short. 6 months, the most, maximum. I wouldn't give it a year, because usually then from habits, whether it's friends who cooks dinner and stuff, you get into habits, and then it almost becomes like a massive anchor. So even though you want to leave, you won't leave because of the habits that you formed. So like most of the other relationships and marriages and everything else, they should have long been ended, but they cannot end because of the habits that you formed, that you just do not want. The habits that you form make it very difficult to be open for change. It brings anxiety when you have to change all of that. And this is one of the reasons why most people are in relationships they hate, because they don't want to change. They just feel like if they try and change, maybe again, lack of confidence, nobody's going to love me, nobody will ever give me a chance. So sometimes we now then subconsciously think that, it's not all that bad. So we focus on the positives, and there will be some positives, but in terms of happiness, overall happiness, that you're not happy. So it's been actually a weird episode, because I'm talking about this, and it's something that it's a conversation I was having with somebody, and it's very important. I'm thinking about it because I had a friend who got caught up in a relationship. He freed himself from that relationship, but the struggle of actually leaving was this, what we're talking about right now, that he'd anchored himself within that relationship because of the habits that they'd formed, So it's very, very important to have this conversation, because there's most of you that are probably thinking about moving in with your partner, or you've already moved in and you still don't know whether you should take it to the next level. And these are the things that I can suggest that you can look into. By the way, I've not put a disclaimer anywhere, but I've just a disclaimer. I'm not a doctor, so some of these ideas, these are some of my ideas, some of the ideas that I've read, and just put connections to the information. So don't feel like you go out and then act on it and say, take it as advice. This is just advice that you can take and then do what you want with it. So thank you very much for listening. If you've got any question, ask me on Instagram and I will get back to you on the podcast. So thank you very much. I'll be seeing you guys very, very soon.